Arsenal have clearly sold the project to Alvarez, and quite clearly there is some interest in him to be a part of it. Otherwise, this would be dead in the water. Arsenal would have walked away and would have gone, sorry, like, you fundamentally don't want to play for us, we'll move on to other targets. It would be beyond stupid for Arsenal to approach it any other way. Now, you might say, James, that's fine, but Arsenal should still not be hanging their hopes on a player changing his mind and should have other options. And I agree with that. They shouldn't be standing still and putting all eggs in this basket. But if they are still pursuing this deal, it's because they've got some inkling from Julian Alvarez that there is a willingness and a happiness to play for us, even if it's not first choice. I've used that analogy of, you've run out of steak, I'd love a burger. That's just life. Like, sometimes that's just how life goes. And when you want to compete for the very, very top, and you want to get to the creme de la creme of players, sometimes these are the decisions you're going to have to make. Or some of the things you're going to have to accept. But I don't subscribe to this idea that because we're not first choice, we absolutely shouldn't go for him. But am I starting to get frustrated with all of this in general? And is it just starting to feel a little too ugly for me? It's tilting that way. Ruben Uria says that Julian Alvarez, according to Elle, we have been able to confirm that the Argentine forward will not participate today in Atletico Madrid training scheduled for this morning. The Argentine will not train today with the team. Julian had a bad night and is suffering from an upset stomach. I tell you what, this is going to test the hypocrisy of people, because Victor Gyökeres, who a lot of people are praising for doing everything he could to play for Arsenal, also didn't train. So we can look at it through two lenses. Well, Julian Alvarez isn't doing this for Arsenal. That's fine. I agree with you. So there's no encouragement to take there. But the idea that a player doesn't train and throws a tantrum to get his move, Victor Gyökeres did the same. He refused to train. He felt he was promised something. Julian Alvarez supposedly feels the same, if you're to believe reports. And I don't like this behaviour from footballers. I tell you what, I'm caught in between two things, though. Players can be discarded whenever a club decides. Look at Gabriel Martinelli. He doesn't leave Arsenal. Us as a fan base, we've decided that we have evolved beyond him. Arteta and Berta and the club have decided they've evolved beyond him. There's been movement behind the scenes to try and broker a deal for him to go elsewhere. He's kind of been forced into it. So if clubs are able to force players out the door, I have to be more open to the idea of players also forcing their way out the door. So I'm not totally character assassinating Julian Alvarez for doing this, like I didn't Victor Gyökeres and I didn't Alexander Isak. But do I think there is a classier, better way of doing things and honouring a contract where you are loved by a club and you have been, loved by the fans or whatever? Sure. And I think someone like Bruno Guimaraes got the line right, which is why I argue with Newcastle fans who felt he went out in a really classless way. I disagree. I think he actually found that line perfectly, and for that got the move he wanted. Anyway, something to debate for another day, but I don't like this from Julian Alvarez, but I also concede that it's a dirty industry and you need all parties involved, agent, player, buying club, selling club, to all agree, and that happens 2% of the time. Now, 2% of the time it happens that everybody involved wants this particular deal to go ahead. And that's where I do sympathise for players sometimes, because when they're the ones who, they can just be not picked for the first team or the squad. They can be put in the bomb squad, like at Chelsea, for example. They could be simply discarded and up for sale and not involved with everything, like we've seen at Arsenal, Gabriel Martinelli. I have to sympathise with players sometimes wanting to take control of their own destiny, especially if they feel they've been promised things, but it's a really difficult line to get right.